Welcome back to On the Move with Victor Shi. It is Tuesday, January 24th. Out of everything that Republicans are doing right now, one of the things that is most pernicious is their tax plan for the American people. Just to give you some of the top lines, their plan would make inflation worse, raise taxes on the middle class, and cut Social Security and Medicare. And just remember, this is a party that campaigned on improving the economy, but virtually nothing they would do would make it easier for American families. We're going to talk about all of this, why Republicans are doing it, and what Democrats must do to respond to this with the perfect guest. And she is Leigh McGowan, who I'm sure all of you know her on Twitter to be Politics Girl. She is a powerful, powerful voice who puts everything into context and gets right into the heart of things. And she has an amazing YouTube channel, too, where she posts really digestible clips called Politics Girl, where she helps us understand what is going on in our government today. I'm so grateful to be joined by Leigh. Thanks so much for being here.
You're welcome, Victor. It's so nice to be here. Honestly, I started this project for your generation, right? Like my son is the tail end of Gen Z. He's turning 15 and he's passionate about politics. But I started the project because I was like, gosh, I'm leaving him the worst world. I understand that my generation didn't necessarily do this, but we are the ones that are responsible for fixing it. And you guys are the ones that are going to be left with it. So I thought I have to do something to help you guys out so that you have a good springboard to make this country what it actually should be. So I'm very, very thrilled to be talking to you. I love Gen Z. You guys are just my favorite. You have so much passion and real hope, which I have always had, but I think that we need it as a team to work together because I think it's very easy to get cynical, especially when you see things like what we're looking at right now.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful for your voice and everything that you're doing to bring everyone together. I want to get started by talking about the Republican Party's tax plan, because to me, it's one of the most outrageous things that they've proposed. And while it won't pass in the Senate, I think it's important for people to understand what they're trying to do. And because you break things down so well, break it down for us. What does this tax plan mean for the American family?
Well, this is a terrible, horrible, very bad day for the American family. I mean, what we have to understand is that the group that is planning this, the Republicans, by general nature, their gist, even though they talk about, wanting to fix inflation and, being the party of small government and freedom, they really are a party that fundamentally look out for the very richest and the very most connected among all of us. This is the party that is fundamentally run by their donors at this point. They are not able to get enough votes anymore based on their ideas or on their personalities or, here are my new fresh ideas for the country. Here's how I think we should be fixing things. This is what I think we should be doing. This is not what they're doing. They are a regressive party, right? This is the party that was not happy with civil rights. This is the party that was not happy with women's rights. Quite frankly, this is the party that wasn't happy with the New Deal. Right? They liked the era of the robber baron. And if you guys don't know the robber baron, this is like the age of the Carnegies and the Astors and these families that you could kind of do anything you wanted because the rich lived in a sort of an aristocracy type thing. It was early American aristocracy where the rich could do whatever they wanted. You could treat your workers however they wanted. You could pay them whatever you wanted. If they died trying to make a train track, it was like, oh, well, new workers. And this is kind of the world they would like us to go back to, where they live in kind of a castle on the hill and we live in sort of a feudal system where we work for them and we are grateful that we're allowed to be here. And this is kind of what they've always tried to return us to, And so we're in this place now where they are so close to getting the things they want. Yeah. They have tried to return us to, they've tried to take away Roe for 40 years, right? And they were finally successful. And this is a long-term goal. They're working diligently to get something reversed, and they got it reversed. This is the same deal. They haven't wanted taxes for years. They have a million loopholes so that, you can't write off your school supplies if you're a teacher, but you can write off your private jet. Right? These are the kind of laws we have in America. And I'm sure most people who are listening are thinking like, that's so not fair. And that's the point. It's not fair. Yeah. And they want to continue to make sure it's not fair. And yet, after running on fixing inflation and lowering gas prices and fixing the border, the very first things that they've passed are getting rid of the Congressional Office of Ethics so that no one can look into who they are. Trying to repeal the IRS, which has always been a big thing for them. They pitch it like it's for the little guy, oh, here we are. It's the little guy. We just don't want you guys to get audited. Please, We're audited all the time. That's the thing. The IRS has told us constantly, we only have the money to audit the little guy, because these huge rich corporations and people, they have teams of lawyers that come along and can find every loophole. And the IRS is like, we don't have the money to go after these guys. And so America leaves trillions of dollars that we could be spending, trillions of dollars on the table every year from the very richest corporations and the very richest people in the form of taxes, unpaid taxes, owed taxes that the very rich don't have to end up paying. So the IRS has said for years, please, please give us enough money to start going after some of these people. But it's not even just to go after the people. It's just to get things done. Last year, 13% of phone calls that went through the IRS were answered. You have a question about how to fill out your taxes.
Right.
13% of those calls were answered. And they're saying, like, we don't have enough money. Please help us get new staff. Help us get new people. And the Republicans continually undermine the one system that could bring money from their donors. So they've always wanted that. Now we're in this tax thing that they've just suddenly suggested out of nowhere. Quite frankly, it's not like they ran on it. 30% tax. They say it's 23%, but they figured it out in a very sketchy way. It's actually 30%. You pay $100. Your sweater costs $100. They're going to add $30 to it. Your child's birthday costs $2,000. They're going to add 30% to it. Everything is going to be 30% more. And their whole goal is, we want to make taxes easier. We want to make it easier. We're going to get rid of income tax. It's going to be so much better for you. But it's not. Most of us only pay a certain amount of tax because it's progressive. So if you make a certain amount of money, you pay a certain amount of tax. This is taxes that will be on every single thing you buy, every single thing you do, every plumber that comes to your house. And for your generation, you would be absolutely decimated by this tax deal. And this is only a deal for the very, very richest. No one has thought this deal through past how well it would serve the ultra rich who didn't have to pay income tax or estate tax or payroll tax or probably inheritance tax. It doesn't serve us.
No, I hope every single person listens to that on repeat at least 2 times because it's so powerful. And most people don't spend a single day thinking about the IRS, but Republicans effectively want to slash it, I think, by 87,000 workers, which is, a number that I was shocked at.
I think the thing is, here's the thing that people need to understand.
Yeah.
In the Inflation Reduction Act, the Democrats put in there money to hire 87,000 new employees. And that's where that number gets thrown around. But it's not 87,000 new IRS agents. It's like janitorial staff, replacing people who will be retiring, people to answer the phones to say, actually, you're going to want to fill out Form C instead of Form D. These are the people that they're going to hire. They passed this bill in August. They've already hired 5,000 new people. The backlog is already fixed in many ways, like just ridiculous backlog the IRS had to get us our tax returns back, to get us the money that we paid back. This is not what the ultra rich want. They don't even want to pay any taxes at all. And what they're going to do is shift the tax burden from themselves, of which, by the way, they already pay so little compared to what they make, on to us, the consumer, because it's called, consumption tax. And this is obviously, as you said, not going to pass. But we have to understand that they're trying to completely change how the country functions. This is the plan. And this is a 50-year goal of people like Koch and all of their ilk to kind of get the country they want, and the rest of us can just deal. And we can see it every day. We can see it with Elon Musk buying Twitter. We can see it with these giant billionaires who are able to kind of buy our media and buy our social media and buy our corporations and buy everything. This is not a country for everyone. This is a country for the ultra rich. And this is the kind of thing we need to fight against.
It's outrageous. And I want you to put this in context for young people specifically, because you've been studying our government for some time. So for young people who have really only known this to be the Republican Party, how abnormal is this? When you look at any other period in American history is there anything that resembles what we're seeing right now in terms of how extreme the Republican Party is?
No, there's nothing. But like I said, the Republicans have always been what would be considered fiscally conservative, family values, traditional values, this kind of thing. And so a lot of people responded to that. They were pro-military, pro keeping the budget down, making sure you didn't spend too much money, except That was never actually the case. It was that you don't spend money on things we don't want to spend money on. We're fine, spending money on wars around the world, or we're fine dumping toxic waste into your water, your drinking water, because it serves us and we make a lot of money. The Republican Party over time, however, has become, if you listen to Ronald Reagan talk about immigrants, it's not the Republican Party of today. He's very generous about it. If you hear George Bush Senior talk about, having people come in, and these are people that have value and worth, and, we need to respect them, and there needs to be a path to citizenship. This is not that long ago. That is the old Republican Party. That was never where I would have been voting, but it would have been where my family would have been voting. The Republican Party of today is like a long-term goal of the absolute biggest donors of their class, a donor class that has bought their politicians, bought their districts, gerrymandered their way into getting back to a time where it was quote unquote great, right? So we want to return. Who is democracy for? This is the question. And there are people who are in the most bottom of power, who are now running the Republican Party, who think it is not for everybody. That democracy is for the rich, by the rich, and the rest of us can work just like we would be serfs on, an old English, aristocracy, where the rich party in palaces and the rest of us serve them and work in their factories, work on their land, and take what we can get. And I think the thing is that this is not a future you guys need. It is not a future that we should be focusing on. And this is not the Republican Party that your dad voted for or your granddad voted for. This is an extremist party that wants to take us back in time to a time before women's rights, a time before civil rights, a time before gay rights, a time before workers' rights. And if you get rid of taxes, that's the very first thing, because taxes fund everything. They fund everything from Social Security to unemployment tax, to the IRS. So without those kind of taxes, the rich obviously stay richer and the rest of us struggle.
It's truly outrageous. And one last question for you. What do you think Democrats should be doing right now to respond to this? I mean, Hakeem Jeffries is in the House, thank goodness, leading the party. But what should Democrats be saying in Congress, and also telling the American people in terms of this Republican Party right now? What would you advise them?
I think I would say that the Republicans, you need to kind of keep pushing their extremism. You need to kind of keep pushing what they're really doing, because it's not like you have to make it up. You don't have to be clever about it. You just need to say, here's the thing. They did not run on this, and yet these are the first things they're doing. They say they want to make taxes easier, but they're going to make taxes infinitely worse for the rest of us. There is a clawback. If you are paying 30% on everything you buy, if you're very poor, the Republicans are like, oh, you can file, to get some money back. So you've said, I've gone from doing taxes once a year, which is intolerable, to now I have to do taxes every single month to try and get a little bit of money back. So people are going to do taxes 12 times a year. I would say Republicans need to hit, or Democrats need to hit things like that. Do you want to do your taxes 12 times a year? Do you want to pay 30% more for every single thing you buy? Do you want to make sure that the rich get richer and then are able to pass down their money with zero taxes, zero estate tax, zero capital gains tax? This is exactly what they've wanted their whole lives. And we promised you we would run on making things less expensive. Inflation has got too high, and we're going to make sure that you don't have to pay too much money. And yet we're going to make sure everything is 30% more expensive. I think we need to talk in very clear terms. And I think we need to show people that this is a disaster waiting to happen. And people need to get really angry about it, because you wonder at this point, what are Republican voters thinking? Because we've said for years, how do you keep voting against your own best interests? But this one to me seems very clear, because without payroll tax, we have no Social Security.
I totally agree.
It's very clear that this is what they're trying to do. I've had many people say to me, oh, Republicans are never going to take away Social Security. And I'm like, you're just not listening. And I think it's up to people like you and me to make sure people are listening. And they know that this is not the future they want to go into. They certainly don't want to be paying 30% more for everything. And this shouldn't even be something that got to the table. And right now it's ready to go to the floor.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous, and like you said, it really does take all of us to do our part to raise awareness about this and hammer this
Just keep
home.
talking about it. It's
Just keep talking about it.
absolutely
Yep,
insane. Like, if you think that the
yep,
party that voted against the Equal Rights Amendment and voted against violence against women and voted against the, Affordable Care Act and voted
yeah,
against affordable housing and is trying to get back, trying to claw back college forgiveness and is
yeah,
against
yeah,
raising the minimum wage, is the party trying to look out for you having lower
mhm,
taxes? You've lost your mind, right?
yeah,
So you have to just be like, nope, that's impossible. What they're looking out for is their donors.
yep.
And the rest of us are not their donors. We're American citizens that deserve to be treated fairly and equally, and this isn't it.
Spot on. Leigh, thank you so much for joining me this morning. This was such an amazing conversation, and
Aw.
truly, you are able to put things into such context for us, and I'm so grateful for that.
Thank you,
And
Victor. And
please
listen,
follow.
yeah. Oh,
Just
sorry.
yeah, please follow I Am Politics Girl on Twitter because I mean it is amazing, and follow her YouTube channel.
Yeah, please
Because
go to Politics Girl YouTube. No one watches it there, and I have the podcast there, and I get some of the greatest guests, just
you
the
do, yeah,
smartest people who and we talk like this. We talk in normal, regular speak so people can understand it, because when you understand, you
yeah,
can care. And when you
definitely,
care, that's when you start to make a difference.
yes,
And
yes,
that's what we all have to do. Every single one of us. These guys have worked for years. They've worked for years to do this. And now we have to fight back.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining. It's been so great chatting.
Bye, Victor.
Bye. Well, that was such a wonderful conversation, and truly, I mean, few people are able to get at to the heart of it, something as effectively as Leigh. And so, I really hope that everyone follows her on Twitter and checks her videos out. They're really, really wonderful and puts things into great context for us. Just in the remaining time that we have left, I have two pieces of news for everyone. The first is it's hard to find myself saying this again, but there's another mass shooting in San Mateo, California, yesterday. At least 7 people are dead so far. A few were injured, but this is the second mass shooting in California in just the span of 3 days, and then also at least 5 over the weekend. And so you have this continued pattern of mass shooting. So far in 2023, there's been 40 mass shootings that have occurred, and yet we really have seen no action from the Republican Party. It's my hope that Kevin McCarthy, as Speaker right now, he has this real opportunity, I think, to reach across the aisle and say to Democrats, look, we will pass meaningful gun reform legislation. There are things that more than 90% of the country agree on when it comes to gun reform. Things like banning assault weapons, things like reforming the ways that assault weapons are manufactured and also performed. I mean, you have all of these things, background checks and national background checks. So it's something that I think Republicans and Democrats both have an appetite for, at least voters have an appetite for. And now the question is whether or not Kevin McCarthy, as Speaker, now that he's in power, will actually do it. And so I hope that all of our eyes will be on Kevin McCarthy, because how many lives have to be lost? I mean, this is really, really ridiculous. It's every single day there's a new mass shooting. And I saw this one tweet that said, it says a lot about America when you ask, did you see the latest mass shooting? And the person asked, which one? And it's, it puts all of us in harm's way, especially, especially young people who have to live with this, who have to deal with mass shooter drills. We just want to live in a world where we can be safe. And that means first, addressing things like, yes, mental health is important, but also the problem is the guns. I mean, you can't have people carrying around assault weapons bans. You have to reform the way that this country treats guns. And compared to every other country, I mean, it's embarrassing. So I hope Kevin McCarthy grows his spine and actually acts on this before it's too late. One more thing is we saw some good news yesterday in terms of accountability and democracy. 4 members of the Oath Keepers were found guilty of seditious conspiracy, which is one of the hardest things to prove in a court of law, for their role in the January 6th insurrection. A great day for the Department of Justice to actually not only charge them, but to actually win the case. And so it's a great day for democracy, justice, accountability. And hopefully this is another indication that they're reaching Donald Trump, because after all, he is the person who incited everyone to January 6th and egged them on to go to the Capitol and overturn the election. So that was some good news. And just a quick programming note, we will be back tomorrow with another episode of On the Move, of course, with Stuart Stevens from the Lincoln Project. And then on Thursday, we'll be joined by Pramila Jayapal to talk about everything going on in the House and her strategy, and also, being on the Progressive Caucus and what she plans to do to fight back against Republicans in the House and what Democrats can be doing. And then on Friday, we'll be joined by someone who ran against Lauren Boebert. His name is Adam Frisch, who I'm sure all of us are somewhat aware of. He is a great person, a powerful voice, and hopefully he'll run again to defeat Lauren Boebert once and for all. Again, all of those will be streamed live or right here on youtube.com/Politicon at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time. So don't miss it. We'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, please have a wonderful and safe rest of your day.